Good evening, everyone. We'll start with the functions. So, if I have a set of lines that I can call any time I want, like let us say there is a calculator that is getting designed, and I have a function called as add. And every time the user access or presses one, I need to call that particular function because in function we are taking parameter A, B, and then calculating sum and then printing it off. So, whenever a set of lines or a block of code is reusable, then we will put it inside a function. Now, a function can be any number of types. First one is the function without any parameters. Second is function with parameters. Third, function without parameters but a return value. Function with parameters and a return value. Function with the default parameters. Okay, we'll just discuss all of these. First, we'll start with simple function. So initially, I'll just write. So in this, how do you write a function in C++? So if I'm having nothing to return back to the main, so if I have void and I say void message, okay. Now this is called as function prototype. This is called as function prototype. That is prototype declaration. We just have the functions heading. Like there is a function called as message. It is not going to return any particular value. That's why we are using void. Now I'm defining it outside the main function. So here I'm just writing cout. Um, Welcome to functions. So here I have not passed any parameter. I'm not returning any value back to the main function. So it is void. What do you mean by return? We will understand this in the next few programs. For now, if I want to call this message function, I'll simply do message. Okay. So I could have just simply written cout statement. Why would I need to write this in the function called as message? I'm just giving you an example, simple one. You can have any number of statements inside this function. There can be thousands of lines also. Instead of writing that 1,000 lines here and then going ahead with the rest of the lines, again, when you want to write the same set of lines repetitively, you will have to again copy paste the 1,000 lines again. So the total number of lines in your main function will become 2,000. Instead, I'll put that 1,000 lines in one particular function and I'll just call that particular function by using a function call. That is, you're going to write the name of that function with the parenthesis. If there are parameters, you're going to pass the parameters here. So what happens when we run this? The function is getting called. How the execution happens? First, the program starts with directives. Then it encounters that there is a function called as message, but it is written after the main function. This is just the prototype declaration. So that when I call this message function, it will go and search in the whole file. If it finds it here, it is going to take the control from here to this line, finishes everything here, okay, and then goes back to return 0. Okay. What if I write cout? Okay. And then call that message function. Then if you run this, first it called the welcome to functions, that is the message function. Then it wrote the placeholder. Once again, when you called that function, it is going to write the content which is there in that particular function. So you can call any number of times. Just in case if I would have written some, let us say, C out. Just something dummy like this. So this is coming from the function. This is in the main after the first function call. Next, the second function call. Okay. Now, what happens if I'm passing parameters? I'll copy this, paste it in the new file, save this as program 20. So I'll pass one parameter, and that parameter is string, let us say. I'll take it as string, string name. Here I'm going to give string name. That means one parameter it is going to pass. Welcome to functions. I will print the name. Okay. So what happens here? When I'm calling this message, I need to pass a value, which is string type. So in double quotes, I'm going to pass Shilpa. Here in double quotes, I'm going to pass probably Albert or something. Okay. Now when you run this, it will print this line. First, it will come to the main, goes to this particular block, prints welcome to function Shilpa, finishes this block, goes to the cout. This is a placeholder will be printed, comes to the message block again, prints all these lines, welcome to functions Albert, and then goes back here. Okay, see this. So this is Shilpa, this is Albert. Okay. Now, what happens if I have not written this? But it is there below, but it is not written here. Prototype declaration is not done, but the function is here. This is valid for a function with, without parameter, any kind of stuff. So when I run this, it will throw you error saying that this is not declared. If you notice, message was not declared. So if I'm writing this after the main function, it is very essential for me to prototype declare it first. Okay, otherwise it will throw error. If I didn't want to do this, then you should have written this entire function before the main. So here there is no problem at all. If you execute this, it will run. Okay. If you are writing the function before the main function, then prototype declaration is not necessary. You can directly write the function. But what happens, it's better when you're reading a book. You need to have an index file which will tell you what is there in this particular book, right? Like that, these prototype declarations will tell us, like, hey, before the main function, it is going to give you a hint that these are the functions which is available in this particular file. Okay, it will not look cluttered. Basically, that is the intention. Now, can I write a function? Now, this would be the first one that you saw, this one. This is function without parameters and doesn't return anything. Okay. Now, in this case, this becomes function with parameter and it doesn't return anything, means it is not going to send back any value to the calling function. Now, what we are going to do, function with parameter, and it returns value. Now, if I have to do something like this, I'll take a simple function called as add. In add, I'm going to send two values, int a, int b, let us say. How do I write it here? Okay, I'm going to define the function below with, I'll take a variable, local variable called as sum equals a plus b, and cout sum of a and b is equal to sum. Okay. I have to call this function sum. Now it needs two integer values, by the way, here. Okay. So, and it does not return value. Currently, it does not return the value because it is given as void. So if I run this, semicolon is missing. When you're passing the values here, you should not write int a and b. You should pass some value, some integer value. So I'll give 11, 33. So when I run this, you're going to get 11 and 33 is 44. So what basically happened, you passed 11, you passed 33, A took the value of 11, B took the value of 33. There is a local variable sum. Sum will be nothing but it will be adding A and B value. So that will be 11 plus 33. So sum of 11 and 33 will be equal to 44. That will be printed. Now this is not returning any value, right? What if this function returns a value, which is of type integer? If you add two integers, you'll get an integer, which return value. That time I'll give it here as int. And in this case, this will be int. Instead of printing the sum here, what I'll do, I will return a value which is sum. Now what does this mean? I'm passing two parameters 11 and 33. It gets added and it is returning some value. Means if somebody is giving you something, you have to take it also, right? So that I'll have to store this value inside another variable. Now that should be declared in the main function. Now I'll take it as int result. Whatever is passed by the function add 11, 33. Your 11 is taken by A, 33 is taken by B. 11 plus 33 is 44, which is stored in sum. You are returning sum means you are returning 44. That means this whole thing will be equated to something like this. It will become result is equal to 44 because this whole thing is returning what value? Adding these two values, which is 11 and 33, that is 44. So now the result will be 44. If result is 44, it's better that you take sum is equal sum of no, I'll just write result is equal to this will be res. Now here you're getting 44. Okay. Then next one. What if I have function without any parameters, but it will return some value? Okay. So integer it is returning. I'm going to keep this as nothing. I'm not going to take any value from the user. I'll just call add function, but it will return some value. Now, how do I do it? A and B value, I'm going to ask from the user inside this add function. So what I'll do, cout, enter val of A and B. Okay. And then cin. Okay. Then you add the value and you are going to return the sum. So what happened basically here, I'm not passing any parameters. That means I'm not declaring any value like 11, 22. I'm not hard coding and sending any parameters here. It is blank. So when you go here, it has created three local variables, that is sum, A, B. I'm repetitively telling local variables. We'll tell about this concept later. For now, any variable which is declared within the function and not in the main or not outside the main, right? These are called as local variables. To which function? To add function. That means outside this add function, if you try to print sum A and B, it will not be accessible. Okay. Its scope ends here. Now you have asked the user to enter A and B. You have taken the values A and B inside the add function. You added it, put it in a variable called as sum, and you're returning sum. So what happens basically, if you give 10 and 20, 30 will be returned to result and result will be printed. Okay. Now if you run this, so I'm going to give 11, 22, you're going to get 33. Okay. Now this is function without parameters, but a return value. Now we'll check for default variables. Okay, default variables. In this, what I'll do is I'll take int a, comma, int b. And here also, you have to give int a, comma, int b. But here I'm going to give a variable 10 and default variable 20. How this works? Let us see. Okay. So in this case, what is happening? You have to pass two parameters. But I have given some default values. What will happen if I do not pass any parameters? What will this return? 30. Because when you don't pass any parameters, A value will be taken as 10 by default, B value will be taken as 20. So 10 and 20, 30 will return. Now, what if I give some values? Let us say I give a value 1 and 2. If I give 1 comma 2, this A will be initialized to 10, right? Initially, like that is the default value, right? But that will be overwritten by 1. B will be given the value of 2. So 1 plus 2, 3 will return in this case because it is overriding your default values. See here, it is overriding the default value. What happens if I give only one value? If I give only one value, what will return? Let us see. If you notice, it is returning 120. Then that 100 which we had given, that will go in place of A. And for B, 20 by default it will take. Okay, so it is going to give you 120.